Mary Bild is one of those writers who never really expected she would be a writer, but she's got a story to tell about her life in aviation. She lives in Bridgeton. She's with us here on 207 to talk about her new book, Finding Myself in Aviation. Mary, thank you so much for coming in. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk just a little bit about before you got into flying. When you were a kid, you had a childhood that in some ways was good and in other ways was kind of a tough one for you, right?
It was a very slow start and unpleasant, yeah.
And you overcame some challenges then, moved along, but for someone who has written a book about aviation, you didn't start flying until you were pretty late. How old were you when
I was
you first did it?
47.
47.
Yes.
You had taken a flight that took you across western Maine and the White Mountains of New Hampshire, Mount Washington.
That's right.
That was kind of the first time you'd been in a small plane, right?
No, the first time I had been in Maine in a small plane.
Excuse me. First time you'd been in Maine in a small plane, and it really had an impact on you, didn't it?
I was looking for something that I could get my teeth into because I had left my job to find some inspiration for what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I thought, well, I could do this. I really needed to do this.
You flew out of western Maine, went over the border, went over Mount Washington, and before the plane had come back down to earth, you had made up your mind, hadn't you?
I asked about taking flying lessons, yes.
And you took flying lessons in Freiburg?
I did.
And you knew right away that you had found what you wanted to do.
No, not then. I went on to get an after I got my private pilot's license, I was afraid that I was a danger to the sky. So I went on and got my instrument rating, and then there was a fellow that used to come to the airport. And he said, "What are you going to do next, Mary?" I said, "Charlie, I'm not going to do anything next." And he said, "Well, what about a commercial rating?" I said, "What am I going to do with a commercial rating at 50 years old?" He said, "Well, you'd be a better pilot." Well, every rating that you get, you're a better pilot. But I thought he meant I wasn't a good pilot. So I said, "I am too." I went right into Portland and I got a commercial rating.
At that time, how many women were doing what you were doing?
Oh, in the seaplane industry, I don't know how about, I wasn't in the seaplane industry yet. There were probably 5,000 to 6,000 women in the country.
But you were clearly in the minority. It was pretty unusual for a woman to be doing that kind of serious flying with aspirations of going higher in the profession.
No, I did when I was 30, but not when I was 47. I was just taking the next step. And the next step kept coming to my lap when I was ready to take that next step.
What really gave you a lot of reward in this field was teaching others.
Oh, yes.
What was it about that really connected with you, teaching others how to fly?
Sharing the love of flying with someone else. And my students come to me. I'm not teaching students that don't want to be there, that don't want to be sitting in that schoolroom. I'm teaching people who have come to me because they really want to learn how to fly. That's a joy.
You write in the book about how once you started getting into it in a serious way, that you wanted to go places. You wanted to go somewhere. Where did you go?
Well, I've flown to Alaska 4 times. And I've flown to, well, obviously you go through Canada to get to Alaska, but I've been all over the country during air races and judging air races, and Nova Scotia to pick up an airplane, and Florida to work, and everywhere.
You've had all kinds of interesting experiences, but as I said, when you say in the book that you really didn't think of yourself as a writer, what made you want to tell your stories? What made you want to put them down in print?
Well, when I was doing scenic flights, everyone would ask me, "How did you get into seaplane flying?" or "How did you get into aviation?" And when I tell them my story, they'd say, "Oh, you're such an inspiration, you should write a book." Well, I had no idea what they meant about being an inspiration, because there were thousands of pilots, thousands of seaplane pilots, thousands of women flying. I was just doing what I loved to do. And writing a book was the last thing in my mind. And this took me 7 years to write, so it was not an easy job. It's easier for me to fly an airplane than it is to write a book.
You make that clear. You finally had to give up flying not long ago. What's that been like for you?
Actually, I didn't have to give up flying. I just didn't have anybody to fly with anymore. And it was getting very expensive. It was just a different time in my life. And I wasn't flying. Oh, I had, during the pandemic, I went to work at Hannaford's to get myself out of the house. And I'd come home so tired after working there that I didn't have the energy to fly. And I wasn't flying as often. I used to fly 2 or 3 hours a day. So to fly once or twice a month wasn't enough. It just wasn't fun anymore.
Do you miss it?
I don't miss it at all. I've been asked to teach seaplane flying, so I started teaching in October. I had 5 students in 1 month, and now I'm teaching over at the Oxford Airport. Couldn't be happier. I feel 10 years younger.
That's a great note to end on. We should all be so fortunate, and that's only the latest chapter in your aviation story. Mary, thank you so much for coming in. Again, the name of the book, Finding Myself in Aviation by Mary Bild. You'll find more information about it and about her in the 207 section of our website. Stick around, back with more right after this.